So in today's video, we are going to be power ranking the NFC South. Now, before we get into the video, please consider liking and subscribing, and let's jump right into the video. So obviously, with all these power rankings, as I've mentioned, these are just my opinions based off of how I see these teams and what they've done in the offseason. So if I miss something, or I fail to mention something, or I don't know fully what happened this past season with the team, just remember these are all coming from my opinions and how I see these teams. And also, when I'm doing these power rankings, their schedule has nothing to do with it. I have seen a couple people be like, well, their schedule. Well, when it comes to these power rankings, we'll do a separate video predicting each of these teams, and that's when the schedule will become a little bit more important. But right now, we're just kind of power ranking these teams based off of what they have on paper and how their team performed to end this past season. And their schedule has nothing to do with how I rank these teams 1 through 4. When we're predicting the records for each of the divisions, that may play a factor, and one of these teams may be bumped down. But the power rankings are purely based off of what's going on paper with these teams and how their offseason and draft went. So coming in at number 4, we have the Atlanta Falcons. I think the Falcons and Bears are kind of in the same spot right now. I don't think either one of those teams are really going to be that good. And also the Panthers. I really had a hard time ranking the Falcons and Panthers because if you ask me personally, you could kind of interchange them. But if we're looking at the conference as a whole in the NFC, the Bears and the Falcons just feel like they're in the same spot. These two teams, they feel like they're in rebuilds, and the Falcons are kind of no different because if you look at them, they traded Matt Ryan to the Colts. So obviously they're losing their franchise quarterback that had been there for so long. And you're also losing a guy in Matt Ryan that kind of made the Falcons look better on paper than what they actually were. I was actually kind of shocked when I looked this up that the Falcons even won 7 games last year. And so you're losing Matt Ryan, who was fairly solid for the Falcons last year. And I think that's kind of gone because you have Marcus Mariota coming in from the Raiders, and he's been a backup the last couple of years. They draft Desmond Ridder, but I really don't know what to make of that. I don't think there's really much that you could say about that because when you have a guy that's been a backup for 2 years and a rookie coming in, you don't really know what we're having, and I don't know if really you can be that high on either one of those guys. Now, I hope they perform. Don't get me wrong. You always want to see guys succeed because I like Marcus Mariota. I think he's a good football player and a fun guy to watch, but at the end of the day, I just don't know what to make of the Falcons. I don't think they're really going to be a good team. Arthur Smith's going to have a huge uphill climb, especially with the fact that Calvin Ridley is going to miss the entire season because of his gambling suspension. So all in all, the Falcons, they're in a really, really tough situation this year, and I just think they're not going to be a really good team. However, if you look at the upside of this team, when you have guys like Cordarrelle Patterson, who's just an electric player who can do everything on the football field, Kyle Pitts, who was amazing his rookie year, and you draft Drake London, they're going to have a big time receiving core. I know Kyle Pitts is a tight end, but whatever. They're going to use him mainly as a receiver. That's what tight ends seem to be used as in the NFL these days. But they're going to have a really big receiving core. So at least you have those bright spots. Now, they did lose Russell Gage, who had by default had to step up last year when Calvin Ridley went down. On the defensive side of the ball, that defense, when it came to their pass rush, was just a mess. It was one of the worst pass rushes in all of the NFL last year, and they lost Deontay Fowler to the Cowboys, so it didn't really improve much if you ask me. And all in all, I don't see the Falcons really being that good of a football team. I don't think the Falcons are really in a good spot to even be successful this year. Like I said, Arthur Smith has an uphill battle, but the NFL, really anything can happen. But if we're looking at the Falcons on paper, they're really not that good of a football team. So coming in at number 3 is the Panthers. If you ask me, you can kind of interchange these teams because if you look at the Panthers, while I do think they still have a top tier defense in the NFL, that defense was lighting people up last year. Don't forget, the Panthers have a really, really good defense. It was the 2nd ranked defense in the NFL last year. So that's something that the Panthers and their fans can hang their hats on. They have a really, really good defense, and I don't think that's really going to change. The question for the Panthers really is on the offensive side of the ball. They don't have a quarterback. They obviously don't like Sam Darnold because he really wasn't that successful last year. They drafted Matt Corral, but we really don't know if he's going to be ready. There was rumors all offseason long that Baker Mayfield was going to be traded to the Panthers, and it's just when it comes to the quarterback position, it's just an absolute mess with the Panthers, and I just don't think that they're really in a good spot to succeed because they don't have a quarterback, and obviously the most important position on the field, and you don't even have a solid one because obviously, like I mentioned, they don't like Sam Darnold. Now, if we're looking on the talent on the offensive side of the ball, first on the offensive line, they did a great move by drafting Akeem Ikwanu. I think I pronounced that wrong. I don't know. It's kind of a difficult name to say, but getting help on the offensive line is definitely something that was needed. And then if we're looking at the skill positions, when you have guys like Christian McCaffrey, and I stand by this, when Christian McCaffrey's healthy, he's one of the best football players in the NFL, hands down. So I really like Christian McCaffrey. If he can stay healthy, he will be a game changer and might make the Panthers a little bit better than what they probably should. You have guys like DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson, who I think are really, really good football players. But overall, when you don't have a quarterback like the Panthers do, I just don't think they're in a good spot to succeed. And that's why the Panthers and the Falcons, you can interchange. Now, if the Panthers somehow get Baker Mayfield, I still think they're the third-ranked team. But I think it makes them a much better football team because I think Baker Mayfield is going to be slightly better. And then, like I said, the defense is going to be fine. They did lose Hassan Reddick to the Eagles and Stephon Gilmore to the Colts. But overall, I think they will be fine. But also, Matt Rule's probably on the hot seat because if the Panthers start off very, very slowly and they're really bad, and they start off even 2-5, 2-6, Matt Rule's job is on the line right now. And just overall with the Panthers, there's nothing really good about them that you could really say other than really their skill positions, and their defense is really good. Coming in at number 2 is the New Orleans Saints. This is going to be a very sneaky good team. I don't think people remember how close they were to making the playoffs last year. And I know because the Saints went through a litany of quarterbacks. They played Jameis Winston until he got hurt. They had to play Trevor Siemian, Taysom Hill, Ian Book. All of them played quarterback. They were a game away from probably making the playoffs. They just needed the 49ers to lose to the Rams. Now, that didn't happen, but the Saints, they handled their business in the final week of the year, defeated the Falcons, and they put themselves in the position to be in the playoffs. They just couldn't get the 49ers to lose to the Rams. So at the end of the day, they weren't able to make the playoffs, but they were a close team to making the playoffs through all the garbage that they had to go through at quarterback. And I just think they're going to be a sneaky good team. Now, they obviously lost Sean Payton this offseason. He retired, and Dennis Allen is going to have a tough task, but I think Dennis Allen, he's in a perfect situation. Keeping in-house and upgrading the coaching staff from within the organization is always the best idea. He knows the system, and I think he's an absolute perfect replacement for the Saints and Sean Payton. So when it comes to the coaching, I think that the Saints are in a really, really good spot because you bring in a guy like Dennis Allen who had the Saints be one of the best defenses in the NFL for the longest time. Like, the defense is still going to be a great defense. And you add guys like Honey Badger to that defense. Now, Daniel Sorensen, not going to do much. I can promise you that, Saints fans, you're not going to like him. He's going to irritate you probably the very first snap that you see on the football field. But, you never know. Daniel Sorensen, literally one play can make the worst play, and then the next play, he's making the best play you've ever seen. But when you sign Honey Badger to that defense, that's a really good piece to add to your defense, and he's going to bring a lot of veteran leadership to that defense, and I think it'll help them play a little bit play better than what they were last year. They were the 7th ranked defense last year, so really defensively, not much more you can ask when it comes to the Saints. They still have a really good defense. It's the offensive side of the ball that's very interesting with the Saints, because if you look at Jameis Winston last year, it's not like they were having him do very much, and they were winning with it. Before Winston got hurt, the Saints were 5-2. And like I said, they weren't having him do much. They were kind of controlling and limiting even the possibility of the damage that Winston can do, because obviously he was a turnover machine in Tampa Bay. And so they limited anything that he could possibly make mistakes with. They weren't having him throw much. They were having him do easier throws. They were kind of running the football. And so I just think they were setting up Jameis Winston to succeed in that offense by not having him do very much. And he was really, really good at that. He may have been throwing for 200 yards a game, but he was really good at what he was doing. And so I think this year they're probably going to do the same thing, but they're probably going to, ease him into doing a little bit more, which I think is the right thing to do. I think Jameis Winston slowly but surely progressing throughout the season, giving him a little bit more is going to be a smart idea, especially if you look at the offense that they have, the weapons that they have. They have Alvin Kamara on that offense with running back, but the receiving core is absolutely nuts with Michael Thomas, who should be back this year. They just signed Jarvis Landry, and they drafted Chris Olave. So the receiving core is going to be really, really good. So Jameis Winston has guys to throw to. So overall, the Saints, I think they're a really good team, and you have to keep in mind, they've beaten the Buccaneers every time in the regular season since Tom Brady has gotten there. The playoff success is a little bit different. When they've beaten Tom Brady all 4 times in the regular season, so there's a lot of good things going on with the Saints, and this is a very sneaky team that might be very good next year. But coming in at number 1 is the Buccaneers. This one's pretty easy, and I don't think anybody's going to really dispute this. When Tom Brady comes out of retirement after just 40 days, you're instantly going to be the best team in your division. So I like what the Buccaneers have going. They got Tom Brady back. He's never going to leave us alone. Even when he goes to Fox, when he signed his 10-year, $300-something-odd million contract, Tom Brady will never leave us alone. But, if we're looking at the downsides for the Buccaneers, they did get a new head coach. They upgraded Todd Bowles from defensive coordinator to head coach after Bruce Arians moved to the front office. Now, Tom Brady coming out of retirement might have had something to do with it. I'm not 100% sure, but I mean, you can make your own speculations on that one. But I mean, Todd Bowles, he's getting an absolutely amazing team this year. They were able to get an extension done with Chris Godwin. They have Mike Evans on that offense. They signed Russell Gage, who I mentioned had to step up by default because Calvin Ridley went down, and I think he did an excellent job last year. They re-signed Leonard Fournette. They traded for Shaq Mason. Ryan Jensen came back, and they still have a loaded defense. They may have lost Jordan Whitehead, but they still have they signed Keanu Neal, Logan Ryan, and along with the defense that already had guys like Levante David, Shaq Barrett, Vita Vea. What is there really much to say about the Bucs? They had a disappointing playoff loss last year against the Rams. Now, they almost came all the way back from that game, and that game got really drunk really fast and very interesting, and it was a very fun game to watch, because we were like, okay, this is happening again where Tom Brady's coming back from an insane game. I know the Rams, they were making a lot of mistakes, turning the ball over. But, I mean, that's really the only downside. Like, Tom Brady seems, because Tom Brady got the retirement life for about 40 days, and he's like, I can't do this. So I think Tom Brady's going to come back fueled, fired, ready to play his best football ever. He was playing MVP level football last year, even at his age. So overall, I think the Buccaneers, there's really not much to say about this team other than the fact they're probably one of the top favorites in the NFC, right behind the Rams, or maybe above the Rams, because, I mean, they got Tom Brady back, and they're just a really good football team. There's really nothing more to say about the Buccaneers. They're just great. But that is my NFC South power rankings. Give me your power rankings down below of the NFC South. Do you agree with my list? Do you disagree? Give me your thoughts down below, and I'll see you in the next one.